Queen Elizabeth now taking steps to ensure elections in the UK remain safe and secure.
The monarch in her speech to Parliament rolled out the Prime Minister's agenda, which included, yes, mandatory voter ID for elections there. Bring our panelists in, Corey Mills, Winsome Earl Sears, and Dino Scaros. Let's go straight to Corey Mills on this one. Your thoughts on this? The UK here, the Queen backing election integrity, and this has some conservatives on social media questioning the move, whether it makes the Queen a racist. I mean, that's been put out there now that she's backing voter ID. Your thoughts, Corey Mills?
Well, first off, that's just absolutely absurd. Look, that was one part of almost 26 different bylaws that was going to be put in place, most of which was focused on economic business recovery, pandemic response. But again, though, it's good to see that the Queen in the UK respects the, integrity of elections as much as the United States does. I don't think that it's suppressive. I don't think that it's in any way trying to prevent those from voting. It's just ensuring that they have free and fair elections. And again, that's the same thing that we're doing here in the United States. And so it's not surprising that the Queen, as well as for the rest of the monarch, will end up being attacked for trying to essentially ensure that there's an electoral integrity and that the country remains a, pro-England, pro-first choice, and making sure they actually have the ability to protect that.
Yeah, you're talking about election security here, election integrity for that matter. And yet, if you look at a legislation that is not the same, obviously, but has to do with voter identification, especially those absentee ballots, showing a photo ID. I'm thinking specifically that Georgia voting laws. Winsome, critics would argue, Democrats we've heard, would call it voter suppression or relic of the Jim Crow era, this legislation. What's your response to those critics and those remarks?
Listen, the Democrats will try anything they can, and they will say anything that they will to see what sticks. And it's just ludicrous. I mean, everybody has a cell phone, don't we? And yet we know how to get cell phones, but we don't know how to get picture IDs. I mean, it's a farce. And then, I know how Democrats like to go pick people up and bring them to the polls. Well, how about instead of picking them up right then, go get them now and go get them an ID. I hate this nonsense, and I wish that we can finally put this to bed. When I was in office in the House of Delegates, we put forward a bill that said, if you need an ID, come get an ID. It's free. Folks, it's all a joke. Don't even worry about it.
Dino Scaros, your thought? I mean, it just goes right back to, obviously, we joke at the beginning of the segment, it just goes right back to common sense and how it was vilified for those asking for IDs to vote in certain areas of the state. Now you've got the Queen Elizabeth backing voter ID in that country to vote. But again, it goes back to what many call just common sense practice.
One of the most ridiculous arguments I've ever heard, and I've heard a lot of ridiculous arguments, is that you can actually go vote without ID and you should not be forced to have an ID. It makes absolutely no sense. It is only done for whatever gain the Democrats think they are getting because of this. They try to say that it disenfranchises the poor. Well, unfortunately, the poor are disenfranchised to begin with. If you only have one pair of shoes and you have holes in them and the soles fall off, you also can't go vote because you can't walk barefoot to the voting booth. So you are disenfranchised that way. Now, I'm not saying that's a good thing. I'm just saying that it is very, very easy to get an ID these days. And it is absolutely ridiculous to have this right in the United States, which is one of the most sacred and one of the most that needs to be guarded securely, be tainted this way.
Yeah, clearly it's internationally viewed the same way as well, the importance of election integrity. Corey Mills, Winsome Earl Sears, and Dino Scaros, thank you all. We appreciate it, panelists.
Thank you.
Good to see you guys.